It's coming March 1st, the Real Men Conference. Are you going? I bet you are. We'll talk about it today live. Mike Damascus here on The View from a Pew.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome. We are here a little after 3 o'clock, and we're talking today about the Real Men Conference that you should plan on coming to. We'd like you to consider it. We're hoping to give you in the next few minutes enough good reasons why you're going to mark it on your calendar, and not in pencil, but in pen. First of all, we'll tell you about it. Then we're going to talk to Dave Erickson, who is the pastor at the First Christian Church in the Omaha Metro, and he's going to be our guest speaker. Mm-hmm. Is that the right?
Keynote.
Yep. Keynote.
Yep.
Oh. Mike Damascus is in the house today. RealmenIowa.org. RealmenIowa.org. That's where you find out about it. It's at the Rising Sun Church in Pleasant Hill. Great church. 7 to 10 p.m. on a Friday night, March 1st, 2013. And let's go to the phone now and talk to Dave and find out what he's going to be doing there. And if you're on the webcast, I believe we have a picture of Dave that we'll show you so you can see how handsome he is. All right, Dave, are you there? All right. We're having some technical difficulty in Father Tattoo's control studio. We'll just wait for a minute. I watched Bruce Almighty today. Maybe I should do my best. Who's the anchor who went... Carol? Is that who that was?
Jim Carrey?
No. The Evan. He played... He played the anchor that Jim Carrey took the job away from because Jim Carrey made him talk real funny when he was on the air. The guy from 40-Year-Old Virgin. Steve Carroll?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
All right. We have the technical issue fixed, and we have Dave live on the air. Dave, how are you?
I'm fine. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. We can hear you great.
Good.
So welcome and to The View from a Pew. I'm Mac, and Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, along with Army Brad, and of course you know Michael Damascus and Father Tattoo. We're all here to listen about what you have planned for your keynote speech at the RealmenIowa.org conference coming up on the 1st of March.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be on your show, Mac. I think the things that men are dealing with are pretty vital to an everyday kind of reality, and I know that Mike's purpose in this conference is to help men deal with the everyday stuff. That's where the challenge really comes, and so that's the hope of the weekend. We want to spend a Friday night thinking about the things that we have to do and things we want to do, like how to be a husband and how to deal with wives and how to deal with the uniquenesses of challenging marriages and what it is to be fathers of little children and growing children, teenagers and adult children. Lots of different phases, lots of different sequences, and putting those pieces all together is what we want to turn into on that Friday night.
What do you think is one of the biggest problems that men face in the 2013s of Iowa and Nebraska?
Yeah, I think similar things regardless of where you live, but for all of us men, I suppose we deal at the base of heart with our own identity issues, the responsibilities that life weigh upon us, and just the adequacy or inadequacy that we feel in addressing those. You have to figure out how to do basic things like put food on the table, perhaps, or deal with the issues relating to your home, and life's pretty high maintenance all its own. And then on top of that, there's these heavy expectations of the people that count on you, like a spouse, and she looks at you with her needs, and the children that are there, and then, of course, the biblical assignment that suggests that you're supposed to be the leader that means you set the tone, that you get an idea of what's supposed to be happening, and so you assume that you're kind of learning it so that you can guide and lead, and those add plenty of pressures to all the mounting things that are already in existence.
Dave Erickson is our guest for this segment of the program today. He's with the First Christian Church in the Omaha Metro, and he's going to be our keynote speaker at the Real Men Conference. You can look up more information by going to realmeniowa.org. It's coming up on the 1st of March, which is a Friday, 7 to 10 p.m. at the Rising Sun Church in Pleasant Hill. You know, you said something right up front there, Dave, which I've been dealing with lately with a friend of mine. I've been come alongside a friend of mine at our church group because he suffers from an identity crisis. And somebody told him the other day, I thought something that was just brilliant. He said, first of all, God does not hold an identity court. God does not judge you on your identity. You are made perfectly in his image, created by a creator who loves you and adores you and wants the best for you. But if you do think the accuser drags you in front of God in the identity court, remember that Jesus is your defense attorney, and he's undefeated. And I thought that was pretty cool, the way that was put together.
That's good input, Mac, and I think that's exactly what we do. We get confused by Satan, by all the other things around us that try to shape identity, like status of bank accounts or number of hobbies that you have or the trophies that we acquire in our life, and somehow they're the essence of our identity and never last very long. It doesn't satisfy, it doesn't supply us with kind of courage and bolster our life like it should.
We studied idols in one of my men's groups a couple months ago, and so I started to examine my life, Michael, to see where my idols were, and I figured out one of them is in my car. That I hold my identity somewhat in the car that I drive, which I guess is somewhat typical of men.
You drive a Ford Festiva, right?
I know. Sunbird Pontiac, 1979, gold.
Pinto.
But, and I think part of that comes from the fact that I come from a family that had car dealerships. And so we always had clean cars, and they always had to be perfectly ready for a customer to look at them because we never owned our cars. We drove the cars with dealer plates. So I think it's fun to examine some of those things that men struggle with. You know, we think of alcohol or pornography or drugs or gambling, but there's a lot of simple things right on the surface, isn't there, Dave?
Absolutely. I have two friends who are returning from a mission that they're visiting in India, and I've been to that mission before, but in the southern tip of India in Kerala, there's a very different life that you engage, and you go through an experience like that outside of our culture and the glitz and glamour that we try to put in our life, and you see some of the things that are going on in a different realm of world, third world environment, and you notice all the stupid things that you embrace for the sake of your identity and your welfare, and sometimes you got to get out of this pace and this place to really get a grasp of what God might be trying to teach you.
Yeah, absolutely. And for men, it's so different. You know, one man will suffer with a gambling issue or an alcohol issue or an identity issue. And then another guy, he's great with his identity. He doesn't drink. He doesn't gamble, but he gets in front of the computer and all he does is look up porn.
Sure. And I think everybody, we're going to face our own challenges, and we're going to fill the vacancies in our life through some measure. And I think the only healthy parts of bringing our life before the Lord is some transparency in the presence of others in the community of Christ. That's the value of the church. That's the value of brothers in faith. Trying to live what a transparent life is, and that's the only place that you can find enough courage and wherewithal to get past some things that kind of dominate us, keep us secret, keep us hiding in the dark.
Yep. Iron sharpens iron, and it's our secrets that make us sick. I don't know if anybody listening ever heard that before. That's a recovery term, but our secrets make us sick. And the other thing that I've learned that I think is powerful is every sin begins with a lie.
Sure.
Every sin begins with the commandment, disavowing the commandment, thou shalt not lie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Michael, tell me what that evening's going to look like from 7 to 10.
Well, we got great worship lined up. Pathway Band is going to be leading worship. They have from our very inception. This is the 4th year we've done the conference. Every year the conference has grown. We started with this started a number of years ago with a guy in my church, one of my elders. His name's Kyle Phillips, and he just came to me and he's like, "Hey, man, I've been kind of reading some stuff and just praying, and I really feel like we should do something for the guys in our church." And so I said, "Well, let's do it." And I said, "How about you and I pray and see if we can get 40 men, to come to this thing?" And that first year we had, just at 100 or so come.
Wow.
And so the next year we decided to not do it at our church building anymore, and we went to Rising Sun and we did it, and we had about 300, and same thing last year, and so. It's kind of cool because we'll have a crowd very similar to that, and Dave will be out here in Central Iowa talking to men that come really from all over the state. I mean, we got guys coming from Cedar Rapids, guys that come from Dubuque even last year to the conference. I mean, from all over, which is great. And then they come just for those few hours because it's really hard. I think a lot of guys to commit to more than one evening, but guys can come on a Friday night for a few hours and say, "Yeah, I can do that." And so they come and they just hear good preaching. Last year, Dave, our main speaker, was Mark Scott, and he just home run, and did a couple great messages, and expecting the same out of you. And I know you're going to do that for us, and I'm really excited that you've agreed to come on board and help us out with this, because I think it's important. And I know most ministers, it's hard to do men's ministry. It's really tough. And so this is one of those things that's a really easy invite. It's an easy way to have guys come and just get fed.
Yeah, there's no cost.
None.
All right.
We do take up an offering during the event.
Sure. So it starts with worship, and then Dave will preach a while, and then do we break into small groups?
No, there'll be a break and some refreshments and stuff out in the foyer area. Come back in for some more worship, and there'll be there's potentially going to be a testimony or two kind of lined up there in the middle area, but then some more worship, another message from Dave, dismiss, go home. That's it. I mean,
yeah, good. I'm glad you're having
simple.
some guys do testimony.
Yeah,
I think
we've always done that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Good. Well, I started that group here this last year with Incredible Pizza and KTIA called Testify, and it works under the Christian Business Network, but it's not just business people. It's retired people. It's housewives, and we do a lot of things during that hour we get together, but we always wrap it up 20 minutes of somebody giving their testimony, because I truly believe that God gives us a unique testimony, and there's something in my testimony that Michael needs to hear.
Right.
And Michael will hear that, and it will make a difference in his life. And then when Mike puts that into his testimony, he says it to Bob, and Bob hears something that he really needed to hear. So I'm really glad you're doing that. That's great.
There's power in a person's personal testimony.
Dave, what should men do to prepare for the event? What should we be praying for and meditating with God for prior to the event?
Well, I think the hardest piece is always to cut out parts of the schedule to say I'm going to do something like that. Friday nights, you can find a lot of excuses to be just about anywhere you want, so you got to show. You got to choose to tune in to things that are going to actually challenge my faith and strengthen me. Even let my wife know that I'm going to something like this, and my kids know that I'm going to something like this. Even take my teenage son to something like this. So, first of all, you have to just make a covenant with yourself to say, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to engage what's needed in my own spiritual walk. Second thing, I think you need to, like for all of us, you have to make your heart supple. You have to kind of deal with all the pride features that get in the way before we can actually learn and grow. We say in our church family here that we only grow as we surrender to God and embrace His teaching. And I've never seen anybody grow and make progress, and I've never seen growth in my own life until I come to a point of surrender. You have to release the stuff that's in the way, and that's a big challenge. But a lot of times it has to be pointed out to us. You have to become aware, awakened. And so I think when you're going to a conference like that, if you're asking what to pray about, the Lord, make me ready. How do I surrender myself to hear this? How do I apply it? How to pinpoint what you're really trying to say?
What's the youngest age somebody should bring somebody? Teenage?
I think, absolutely. Teenage dads and sons. I have two boys myself, along with two daughters, but the encounters we've had with faith, with sons and dad, I mean, those are some of the richest things that I've ever really done, and I appreciate being able to do those together.
All right, Dave Erickson, he'll be our keynote speaker at the realmeniowa.org conference. That's coming up on March 1st, 7 to 10 p.m., Rising Sun Church in Pleasant Hill, and we'll tell you more about that as the next few weeks travel on. Dave, God be with you. We'll talk to you soon. Michael Damascus is next as we talk live.
Thanks, Dave.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
21 minutes after the hour on this gorgeous day here in central Iowa. We sure appreciate you taking the time to listen. If you're listening live on 99.3 KTIA or Webcast One Live, we thank you. There's lots of choices you have to listen to something live like this. You make the effort to get to your computer or your smartphone or your laptop or your iPad, or you're just in the car listening to the radio or your stereo at home. We appreciate it very much. If you're taking the time to download this program, an extra thanks to you also. You have even a larger variety of things that could entertain you or educate you or enthrall you. And we work hard here every day to do an honest, transparent show about relationships with Christ. And different than most shows on a Christian station, most of the time you've got a preacher or a teacher or a pastor giving the message. And I'm no preacher, I'm no teacher, I'm no pastor. In fact, I'm the president of the Not a Good Enough Christian Club. And so I'm sitting here in the pew asking the experts, and in this case it's Michael Damascus and a minute ago Dave Erickson, about the questions that I think you'd like to ask your pastor. You know, if you could raise your hand in the middle of the sermon and say, Pastor, I really appreciate that you're preaching about Hezekiah today, but I'd really like to know, as a man, what do I do about my pornography addiction? Or I need to be a better husband because my wife doesn't know if she wants to be married to me anymore. And those are tough conversations. It's hard to go to your pastor because you don't want to seem vulnerable to your pastor. You want to seem strong. Like the good Christian man you want to be seen as. But it's that accountability, it's that honesty, it's that transparency that you'll find the Holy Spirit living in. And that's where the honesty comes out. And as we talked in the last segment, that's when you learn to surrender. And remember, we grew up as men. Surrender was a bad thing. You didn't surrender to the Nazis. You didn't surrender to the cowboys and Indians or cops and robbers. But here, God wants us to surrender that sinful way that the accuser gave Eve and Adam that very first moment when they bit into that apple. God draws you close to him and says, speak to me. Tell me what's on your mind. Those of you that are heavy laden with burden, come and I will refresh you. So we hope that you make Real Men, the conference, part of your schedule, the first day of March in the Lord's year of 2013. It's coming up here just 2 weeks from tomorrow. 3 weeks.
No, we got all of February to go through.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
we're in
I'm
January.
sorry. We're in January. Okay,
I wish you were right. Then it would be close to spring.
Yeah. Well,
What's the website?
realmeniowa.org. realmeniowa.org.
Yep.
As a pastor, share with us some of those moments that men do drop their wall, their brick wall, and they come and they share with you some of their fears and their inadequacies and their identity crises.
Well, I think you kind of nailed it a little bit ago. It's not often. It doesn't happen a lot. You know, it seems like I would have more often than not a woman or a wife that would say, "Hey, you know, can I come by and chat, or can I talk to you? You know, we're experiencing some issues." And but a guy is not usually apt to do that, and it does happen, but it's not as often, it seems like, as a woman. And when it does happen, sometimes there's a catalyst that helps that to occur. Maybe there was just a sermon that really, you know, stung or really kind of cut to the heart, or like the Real Men Conference, you know, that it's just one of those kind of out of the norm, not an ordinary experience for a guy that kind of opens them up to realizing, you know, it's kind of a man in the mirror moment. Man, I really got stuff that I've been ignoring. I've just been putting this crud down. It's like a Christmas tree box. I put it all back in the box and I duct taped it over, but sometimes all you got to do is just touch that box and poof, it opens right back up, you know. And a lot of guys hold those things down. And I've found, you know, one of the things, Dave didn't really say a whole lot about this, but this is for me, and it's anecdotal because it's true in my life, but I've noticed it in a lot of men's lives, are issues with their father. And it stems to, you know, them never really becoming the man that they fully, you know, could be or should be, because they've got this unresolved stuff with their father. Either their father was, you know, just completely absent out of their life. He just left. He abandoned them, which is true in my case. Or they were physically or emotionally absent, you know, in their life. They were there physically, but they were emotionally just very distant. You know, and those kinds of father wounds, men carry that. I've known men that have been in their 70s that would just break down and start crying when they talked about their dad and the relationship with their dad, because it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And so those are real tough things. You know, I think that we have to, as those of us in ministry, we have to be willing to deal with.
There aren't that many good fathers out there, are there? I mean, when the truth be told, men usually fail at relationships.
Yeah.
Because they're not willing to show their, I use the term transparency, but who they really are deep inside. Because we're taught to be who the world wants us to be.
I think that's a key comment right there, is that's how we're taught. In our society, for good or for worse, we've moved away from the man being that typical man kind of statue that we grew up as. I think we've moved away. Our society has had more feminine influences on it in the last 40 years, but it's kind of the way if you remember, like in the old television shows, how the father was supposed to be. There, you were supposed to be go to work, come, wait till your father gets home, and they weren't supposed to be in the birthing room. They weren't supposed to be, comforting the children when they were hurt.
How somebody help me with it. Does anybody here watch situation comedies at all? I don't.
Every once in a while.
I mean, how are men portrayed in families? Because Brad's right. I mean, I'm a father knows best. My 3 sons, the Cosby Show.
Yeah, it's still the same today.
It is.
No, I'm joking.
There's no father figures. Not a traditional family father.
Right.
I mean, you can't really. The father is almost absentee.
Right. Well, I mean, men just in general are, portrayed as doofuses, most of the time, and have very shallow, simple, self-absorbed interests, which honestly
sounds like real life.
I know is not that far from the truth, but that's how we're portrayed. And I've had a lot of people get on my case before in our particular church setting, because I believe very, very strongly in the permanency of marriage, and we uphold and we want to honor marriage in any way that we possibly can, and that's what scriptures command us to do. And so we believe those in leadership in our church need to be men that have never been divorced, and that's a really important principle. Not every church adopts that or embraces that, and I've had a lot of debate about that. I don't want to go there down that road, but here's the point. And I've had people argue and say, well, that's just, that's hurtful because you got good men. Yes, we do. We got good men, but here's the point. I can look around everywhere and see men who have blown it. But what I see in the New Testament is wanting to uphold and look at the example of men who succeeded, and so what we want to do as a church is to honor and say, look at these guys, look at their lives, look at how they lead their families, and try to exemplify that, which really puts a lot of pressure on the guys in our church that are in leadership, but it's important because leadership isn't just a popularity contest. We're really trying to help people live Christ-like lives. And so the example in our culture, we're just completely barraged. I mean, incessantly, nonstop with this, this is what it's like, but it's not a biblical image. It's not a true image, but this is what it's like to be a man.
Yeah.
And it's, masculinity today is totally being redefined as more of being a sissy, really. And feminism is more of a move towards masculinity.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're upside down, we're inside out, opposites. And so
our culture, I feel, has gone completely so crazy that what used to be and what should be, if you believe in the Bible, is up is now down, and everything's twisted around.
Absolutely.
It's just craziness because we were afraid to stand up because people listen to the political correctness and Max said it here, that if you read scripture, you're reading hate speech.
Yeah.
In reality, it's like, if you don't discipline your children, is it because you don't love them? Because if you allow them to do anything, then you're actually causing them greater hurt, and it'll be carried on to the next generation. So.
Yeah, you and I, Michael, got drug into that thing with, your sign.
Right.
And I was told because I've got friends on both sides of the aisle. I've got heathens. I love them all. My favorite guys to sit down and talk to are gay men because I believe so many times that those men have not chosen a godly path. Mm-hmm. They know they have not chosen the way God created them to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I guess I'm safe because I don't crack on them.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever you speak to a militant gay, and you just read what the Bible says, that's hate speech. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy to me.
Truth is the new hate speech.
Yeah, it is.
And it's sad, but I think our culture is not going to a good place. it's cyclical because we're just repeating some of the same old stuff. I mean, NBC's sitcom, the newest one, The New Normal, it's just an old lie. There's nothing new about it, and it's just,
And there's nothing normal about it.
And that's right. But
they want to create it in people's mind that, oh, this is okay, and it really isn't. And the mother who opposes everything on it, from what I haven't seen a whole show of it, I've just seen commercials of, but who's actually saying what is right in nature is put out as being this crazy woman.
Right.
What is that show?
It's called The New Normal. It's on NBC. It's a sitcom about gay men that are trying to have a baby, that they're doing it through in vitro fertilization of a gal who's going to be their surrogate mom and whatever. And so that's quote unquote the new normal, and just you got all these characters, kind of watching it all play out, and it's just more of the normal propaganda from our media, just trying to make the homosexual lifestyle a very normal thing, and it isn't.
And
it's
even
not
beyond normal, but like what you should aspire to.
Right.
Because everybody's happy and life's great.
Right.
And they have...
It's the Budweiser commercial of homosexuality. They're not showing the truth behind it, the just the damage that it really does do to men and their lives, and women. Homosexuality is a hurtful, dangerous lifestyle to live.
Well, I'm convinced that the LGBT movement, did I say that right? LGBT.
There's a man and a woman. That's, biblical is best.
That movement is just completely run by the accuser.
That's right.
If you take the curtain away, like in The Wizard of Oz, the guy running the curtain back there is the accuser, because this is his way of attacking God.
Right.
All right, crazy stuff. 25 before the top, Salem Radio Network news at the top of the hour, and then True Blue with Pastor Michael Mudloff and Chris Roloff coming up. My guest today is Michael Damascus from what church?
Fort Des Moines Church
right.
of Christ.
Fort Des Moines Church.
Godsfort.org.
Godsfort.org.
Yep.
That's cool. Fort Des Moines Christian Church?
Fort Des Moines Church of Christ.
Church of Christ. All right, I should have written that down before. And we're going to continue this conversation on what do men need. And next we're going to talk about pornography. Not that we need it. How to fight it. That's next, live.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Fight the good fight on a Rebels Cause Radio, Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on a rebelscause.com. A Rebels Cause Radio is edutainment.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
The only way we come to know the Saviorship of Jesus Christ is by bowing and acknowledging that He is Lord and King over all the earth.
Jesus Christ died on a cross, paid the penalty for our sin, and by repenting of our sin and accepting Him by faith, what He did for us, we are forgiven.
Salvation is not a combination of faith and works. Salvation is by faith alone in God.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
We're the ones in the pew, not pulpit. Come on now. Let's reason together. The phone lines are open. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
Oh, sometimes we need gun violence in the studio. 3:38, 22 before the top, Salem Radio Network News, and then at 4:03, True Blue with Michael Mudloff and Chris Roloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church. Do we have a caller here?
No, but you do realize out of the two of us, I own more guns.
I don't care.
I just want to point that out. If you want gun violence here,
well, you know,
you're on the losing end of this thing.
So that call is not for me?
That call is a guy asking about what it takes to get a show here. So I was.
Oh, okay. You know, I had a guy, and I want to get back to the Real Men Conference, but I had a guy, a liberal friend of mine on Facebook that we always get into debates, who asked me in a private message today that why I hadn't chimed in on this gun control issue. And
did he listen to the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
The answer is, don't hit me, but I'm not so sure I don't agree with Obama on this. I don't know why we need 20 bullet magazines. I don't know why we need. I don't know why people who own guns shouldn't. Ow! Did you see that?
That's why you need a gun.
See, Mac, it also comes down to you don't need it, but there are times when I need it or Brad might need it, but you don't.
Why do you need a 20 bullet magazine?
Because it makes it easy to shoot a lot of prairie dogs.
Yeah, that's right. You're a prairie dog hunter.
Yeah. I use 25. I use 25 and 50 round clips every time I go out. It's easier than having to reload all the time.
Let me say this, and I mean, this is my input on the issue, and I am a gun owner, and firmly believe in the Second Amendment, and I believe that our ability to protect ourselves, either with a rock or a Glock, is God given.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's something that is not given by the government. It's not even granted by our Constitution. The ability that we have to defend our own life is something that God, has put inside of us. But I think what's really, really important is that we understand the government is not well suited to be able to determine what's a reasonable way to limit people's ability to have whatever weapon to defend themselves. They can't do anything right. And so for us to trust in them to say that they can, adequately determine what's good for me to have and not to have, I just have no faith in that whatsoever. And the reason the Second Amendment was granted in the first place was to protect me from that very said government that's trying to take away things from me in the first place.
And if you don't have a full Second Amendment, the next thing that will be toppled is the First Amendment.
Well, that's been toppled, Brad.
The First Amendment's gone.
It's not completely gone. It's not completely gone.
Well, no, it's not completely gone, but it is not what it was.
It is gone. It is in retreat. It is not coming back. It will be further. Look at Christian radio already. They're being attacked for hate speech because we won't say that homosexuality is all right, that gay marriage is okay. We won't grant a bunch of concessions that they would have us do, that there's multiple ways to heaven. We won't quit saying Jesus is the one,
but you
one
can
and only
still
God.
say it, is what I'm saying. And
but not for long. There's lawsuits in place now, and I would wager that when at some point, maybe even in our lifetime, we will not be okay to say these things. These will be things that as people that labor for the church, we will be risking our lives and the lives of our families to proclaim the gospel.
When that point comes where you decide it's a matter of risking your life to oppose a tyrannical government, the only chance you have is if you have only 10 rounds in your magazine, you're really going to wish
my gun isn't my only chance. My only chance is rooted deeply in the power of the Holy Spirit and a sovereign God.
There's a personal responsibility as a man, we get just back on the topic, where there comes a point where there's the good fight that needs to be fought.
Is this a phone call about gun rights?
Yeah,
or?
now the guy wants to talk about gun rights. So.
Okay, all right. Let's go to the phones and find out who's on. Hi, you're live on The View from a Pew. Who's this?
Hi, this is Frank.
Hi, Frank. How are you?
Listen, if any of you are aware of the guy Reginald Denny out in the Los Angeles riots, do you think at some point while he was getting beat with cinder blocks and the different kicks and punches that he might have wished he had a gun with multiple rounds?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here's the problem. Why can't I have a gun with whatever rounds I choose to have? Where is it in the Second Amendment that says, well, you can have a gun, but?
It isn't.
Right.
And I'm with you 100%, and I would probably be willing to fight to defend your right to have it.
Here's the problem. For the most part, as things go along in this world, things go pretty calm, and the vast majority of people don't need these guns per se. But what happens when martial law needs to be declared? What happens when the National Guard couldn't get into Florida after that hurricane back in the 90s, and people had to literally run around and pick up trucks with their shotguns to protect their houses from rape, looting, pillaging? Wouldn't some of those people in New Orleans, when the law left and fled and wouldn't protect them, do you think they might have needed a gun? How about the Los Angeles riots? How about when the Northridge Fault goes off, which it's not it's not if, it's when. And when Los Angeles gets shook down, I think there's going to be some people that might decide, hey, those gun rights might seem something we'd like to have right now.
All right, Frank, I appreciate you calling in. Thank you very much. Thanks for your opinion today. I do appreciate that. Frank's a good listener. I had something I wanted to...
You were talking about, you just said a little bit ago before we took the call, you were talking about, you just don't think that some of those weapons and some of those rounds or whatever, we don't need this many or whatever. Here's what I think about, because you look back into the revolutionary times when we were fighting the Revolutionary War, pre-Second Amendment, pre-Constitution. I mean, you could make an argument and say, nobody needs a cannon. Who needs a cannon? The way that those people fought that war against that tyrannical government was that they took those weapons when those guys got murdered or they were killed in the middle of battle. They'd take the cannon,
right,
and then they'd use it back against those people. And
and the British would argue that rifled weapons, no person should have a rifled weapon,
right?
Because there's no reason for it. Because you can shoot our soldiers from farther than our soldiers can shoot back at you. And that is why we have a country. That's why that was put in place. So law-abiding people can protect themselves from evildoers.
Here's we were talking about the First Amendment for a second. Here's my fear on the First Amendment. It seems that the liberals have mastered this idea of public domain. That you can't have a baby Jesus on the courthouse lawn. You can't have a copy of the Ten Commandments in the courthouse. You can't. Well, guys, you know what we're talking on right now, don't you? The public airwaves.
Mm-hmm.
This is the simplest of communication we have.
Mm-hmm.
AM, FM, terrestrial radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just waiting for those liberals to step up and say, you can't talk about Jesus on my airwaves.
Right. It's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really think that.
How long until you think somebody's going to come and start telling you what you can and can't say based on your tax exempt status?
But that's already been, those kinds of threats have been being tossed around for many, many years. And, the whole, I can't remember what the title of the movement is, but preaching a sermon and sending it into the IRS and challenging them. That's been going on for a couple years now. But the idea that a preacher like myself, preaching the whole counsel of God's word without threat of intimidation or the government trying to come in and in some way limit or marginalize what we're doing, I think those days are few and far between. I think that we need to understand that we're doing something right now that we're not going to probably be able to do forever. And I think even in our lifetime, we'll start to see those transitions. Oh, absolutely. Because I just really believe that the government is encroaching on our religious liberties at a force that's almost unstoppable right now. And
will we stand up as Christians like the NRA stands up?
I hope so. to be blunt with you, I am, and I know that there are other men that will.
And I think a lot of people just need inspiration to see other people stand up, because for so long they've been fed the lie that it's wrong to stand up. It's wrong to stand up and say that you're Christian, and that it's wrong to be. It's not polite, or it's not proper to say homosexuality is wrong.
Michael Damascus is our guest, pastor at Fort Des Moines Church of Christ. We're coming back live, and we'll get back into the Real Men of Iowa conference coming up on the 1st of March at the Rising Sun Church. Go to realmeniowa.org.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Fight the good fight on a Rebels Cause Radio, Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on a rebelscause.com. A Rebels Cause Radio is edutainment.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
10 before the top, Salem Radio Network News, and then 3 minutes after the hour, it's True Blue with Pastor Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church. Additional commentary from Chris Roloff at KTIA. Well, it's the Real Men Conference coming up on March 1st, 7 to 10 at night. It's just a one-evening deal. It's not a whole weekend thing. You don't need hotel rooms. You don't, if somebody's coming in from out of town, they may want to stay over because we won't get done till 10 or after. It's at the Rising Sun Church in Pleasant Hill, which is a great room. I suppose that holds 300 people.
Oh, more than that. I
Does
think.
it? Okay.
Yeah, they can hold like up to 1,000. I think so.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
I
a pretty
underestimated
nice
that.
facility.
And we have there's no cost. There will be a free will offering. And the keynote speaker will be Dave Erickson of the First Christian Church from the Omaha Metro. He's actually from Council Bluffs. I just hate to say Council Bluffs. People just get the worst image, Council Bluffs. When I was in Nebraska, we were so glad Council Bluffs was in Iowa. And then I moved to Iowa, and I found out that Iowa wants to give Council Bluffs to Nebraska. Wrong side of the river. Anyway, realmeniowa.org is the website to go to. And we're just going to get real. We're going to talk about the tough stuff. Don't come if you're looking for football analysis. We're not doing that. We're going to talk about the stuff that messes with us. Our identity crisis. How to be a better father. How to be a better husband. And note, I did not say that you're a good enough husband. None of us are good enough. I know I'm not. Maybe you guys are. Maybe I'm the only one in the whole world that will stand up and say, I could have been a better husband to my wife in the past, and I fear that I won't live up to her expectations in the future. So if I can walk away from this Real Men Conference with one thing that can improve my marriage, boy, is that worth it.
And you will, guaranteed.
But we're also going to talk about some of the stuff that we like to keep in the closet, the secrets. Remember, secrets make us sick. That is not cute. That is true. That is a truism. It is a Macism that is true. Our secrets make us sick. The pornography? Oh, no, I'm not into pornography. I don't have a Playboy magazine in my sock drawer, and I don't buy movies. And how about those pictures? You know the ones on Facebook. You know the ones. Or the website that you just happen to trip over. You know the ones. Where do you think that comes from? That comes from the accuser. He's going to take 1 inch, 1 foot, every time he sneaks into your head and lights that lust candle and makes you go, oh, baby. Because that messes with the marriage. That messes with honesty. I'll tell you what, and I'm blessed. Now, I've never made my alcohol issues, a private secret. I'm so blessed that pornography doesn't faze me. It just doesn't faze me. I'm just blessed that way. Now, you put a bottle of gin in front of me, and I'm going to be wearing a lampshade pretty soon. But I don't have issues with pornography. But I know guys that do, and it's a demon.
I know many men that do.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Are you fortunate enough that some men will come and talk to you about that?
Yeah, I've had it where guys come very secretly, kind of like Nicodemus with Jesus, Nick at night, and they come up and we can't talk to my wife about this. She can't know that I'm talking to you about this, and so in a very private, very secret way, I've had men come to me and help lead them on the path to keeping that out in the light. And that's the biggest thing is if you can keep it no longer a secret, if it can be light has the power to diminish darkness in our lives. And so, man, exposing it is the best possible thing that you can do.
Now, pastors are exempt from that, right? They have no problems with that, right?
Actually, I think that probably more pastors struggle with pornographic addictions than anybody.
Yeah.
Those guys are sitting in their offices a lot, sitting in front of a computer. Most of them are all hooked up to the internet, and now it's just intravenously fed to us, on the internet, and it's just wrong. So
and not to mention, the pastors are also, they're the guys that Satan's constantly attacking. I mean, we know that pastors are constantly under attack from the accuser. So you've got a lot of added outside pressure on top of just having the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when the accuser can bring down a pastor.
Absolutely.
For lust issues.
Absolutely.
Now, and I don't want you to divulge anything private about your congregation, but in general, how many times does that conversation about pornography come from the wife rather than the husband?
When it comes from the wife, it's usually really hard because she's found something. I was on his smartphone, or I was looking at the iPad, or I looked at the computer, and and that's a drag because it hurts. Women, and the reality of this is that it's not, a lot of people might try to justify it in their life. It's just, I'm just looking at some pictures, man. I'm just window shopping. There's nothing really wrong. Nobody's getting hurt here. I've known people to divorce over this issue. Christ defines this as adultery, looking lustfully at another woman. And so it is a big deal. It's a marriage and family destroying kind of issue. And I think it's really important. And for those men that do deal with it and do come to me, I usually have one pathway, and that's we go through Every Man's Battle, and that's a fantastic book, and it's a fantastic study, and it's a book that's helped me personally. It's a book that's helped many men that I know.
I'm going to ask a real ignorant question, but I honestly don't know the answer to this.
Okay,
when you're dealing with marriages, when the wife has found out there's pornography. Why is that so horrible to the wife?
Because it makes her feel like she's worthless. She feels like her husband has to go somewhere else because she's not good enough. She feels humiliated. She feels icky. She feels gross. There's so much in there.
Is it that same alleyway that adultery would be on?
Absolutely, in every way. And many women, rightfully so, put it in the same par as that.
Wow. All right. Well, I sure hope you can set aside some time to come. Nothing I'd like more than to get on the radio sometime in late February and say, sorry, guys, we're sold out. Only so much room, and we're sold out. And then start a list for next year. It's realmeniowa.org. That's where you sign up. Doesn't cost anything. It's going to be the 1st of March, a Friday night, 7 to 10 p.m., only one night. Not going to get in the way of, anything going on March Madness or anything like that the next day. It's at the Rising Sun Church in Pleasant Hill. And for more information, again, go to your computers, realmeniowa.org, or call Michael Damascus out at Fort Des Moines Church of Christ and talk to him about it. All right, Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, Army Brad, Michael Damascus, and, of course, Father Tat. We appreciate you being here. I'm J.
Running the shoe. You didn't say it once.
I'm J. Michael McCoy, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. And remember, tonight, just do one thing for me, would you? Please, just one. Pray.